That's great. And then, Frank, for you, when Arca showed up, right, what were some of the considerations that you have about quote unquote listing on your ATS? And
I think from an ATS perspective, I think for our industry, it's an absolute slam dunk to have someone thinking about an SEC registered product, because I think a lot of us spend a lot of our time thinking about exemptions to registration, and the fact that Arca has taken up the mantle to go down this very long road with the SEC, essentially introducing them and training them on different issues in the context of digital securities is just fantastic. So thanks to JD and the team for doing that, and we were thrilled to be a partner with you working with the SEC on secondary market liquidity for our coin, right? What does it mean to have a peer-to-peer transfer of an SEC registered product in tokenized form? I mean, from our perspective, as an ATS, we onboard our subscribers, put them through AML KYC, whitelist the wallets, and enable kind of the visibility into secondary market trading of this product. And in addition, Oasis Pro Markets runs a marketplace for initial issuance. So we currently have our coin listed with us, so investors who want to come in and purchase our coin for the first time can do it that way as well.
And do you also provide a secondary market?
We are still in the final stages of discussions with the SEC on the approval of the secondary market trading, but I think that's very close at this point, looking at, well, sooner rather than later. There's a time frame, but I don't know if I can say it publicly.
Right. But, no, you don't need to, but just carrying on with the hypothetical. Okay, so let's assume that a buyer and a seller come together. Again, this is with the thematic of takes a village, right? The buyer and seller come together on your ATS, and a match is made. Can you explain what happens after that?
Absolutely. So a buyer and seller coming to an ATS, and this is more general, it applies to this product as well as others. Someone has a price that they're looking for with respect to a certain security, and they put that out on the ATS. Someone else matches that, and in addition, right, when they're putting in their orders on the ATS, they'll also notify their custodian that the order has been placed, right? This is part of the three-step process. And then when a match occurs, the ATS will notify the buyer and seller that a match occurs, and simultaneously notify the custodian, who will execute the transfer of securities for payment pursuant to the pre-existing notification that they received from the buyer and seller. So that's how it all comes together.
And what are there any risks in the way that you described it that are less or more than the trading of, let's say, a non-tokenized security?
I mean, on the blockchain and dealing in tokenized securities is far better from my perspective when you think about liquidity, transparency, and settlement. The settlement is instantaneous on the blockchain, virtually no credit risk. The funds are there when the settlement occurs. So I think it's far superior.
And one of the things that we try to do for our clients, right, when our ATS partners are looking to match orders, we actually have the ability in real time to expose clients, both the buyer and the seller's assets that they're utilizing for settlement, and to lock those assets in real time to basically ensure liquidity at that venue, maybe other venues as well, but essentially totally eliminate counterparty risk and then instantly settle once that match has been made and once the order's been confirmed. And that's something that we're looking to do. And I think it's going to be ultimately one of the that kind of lever of efficiency is going to be one of the things that drives kind of mass adoptions of digital asset securities from kind of the Anchorage perspective.
And also from the Anchorage perspective, is it a requirement that the buyer and seller both have, or both essentially be customers of Anchorage, or could one of them be a customer of a different custodian?
They can be customers of a different custodian. Obviously, there are advantages to keeping everything within the ecosystem, particularly right now when we're the only operational kind of unequivocal QC. We can settle cross custodians, cross venues, even hypothetically to non-custodial wallets as well. The advantages of settling with an Anchorage, though, in addition to that unequivocal, that just regulatory perimeter, is what we're also able to do is just kind of expose the positions of both the buyer and the seller, the maker and the taker, to the ATS or whoever's actually making the match there. They're able to place a hold via API, basically lock those funds. Once the match has been made, those funds can't be withdrawn. And then we just need to get one API call, and we can instantly cross-settle, regardless of like what that. So we can settle instantly T0, T+2, doesn't matter. We just need to make sure that we're doing so at the direction of our clients or our clients' agents or authorized parties.
Great. And then JD, back to you, right? So you create this hypothetical fund. What's the sales process like, right? Like, because if I think about, my investment advisor never once come to me and said, hey, there's this cool thing called the blockchain, and do you want to buy a tokenized security? So what's your experience been?
That's it. So we've kind of, we haven't been very actively promoting this fund just yet. And we haven't been actively promoting the fund essentially because we feel like it's not in its full incarnation yet. The full incarnation will come once we have the ability to trade this on an ATS. And then what you're really going to see happening from Arca and Arca Labs is a creation of a family. And what we've done is much like the ETF had evolved over time. It started with one portfolio of something very, very plain vanilla, and then it expanded into different asset classes. And the different assets that we can put in there are any sort of security. What we do know from the SEC is that you can't put digital assets into that portfolio. They've been very clear about that publicly, and that essentially is, kind of the conversation you've been hearing regarding, a spot Bitcoin ETF, right? The reason why there's no spot Bitcoin ETF is because the SEC is not comfortable with their oversight and the oversight of digital assets, and therefore, these products that you're seeing that are coming to market are all futures-based ETFs, which are derivatives products, which ultimately then will fall into that portfolio. So, kind of for us, the goal here really is to, kind of expand on the benefits that have been created already, whether it's the peer-to-peer transferability or the automation of some of the roles that are out there. And there's one other point that I'd just like to make here, because we're talking about the different roles that are played here by different service team members. One of the places where we believe that is an ideal use case for blockchain is for automation on the transfer agency, right? And kind of when you talk to transfer agents that are out there, they're all required to keep books and records by the SEC off-chain. But I think that there's a shared common belief that there are efficiencies that ultimately, as the regulator becomes more comfortable with the technology and more funds are created using these different technologies, that ultimately there will be relief, and the efficiencies that we all believe can be realized will ultimately be realized in that fashion.
Right. Okay. And the communication when it happens with the transfer agent from the custodian, right, but that a trade has gone through, right? I mean, the transfer agent, you're right, has to maintain it a courtesy copy on the blockchain, but has to maintain it. You can maintain it on index cards in a shoebox. That would satisfy the requirement. So we do hope that kind of catches up, that the rules are changed to do that, right? But what do you see any more? What are the main challenges that do you see as a custodian that you feel like you have to overcome, and why do you think other custodians that already act as custodians for mutual funds aren't competing with you?
I think break that down into kind of two different segments, right? In terms of challenges, I think the biggest challenges that we're kind of collectively facing as an ecosystem is just a lack of clear regulatory clarity, right? So we're trying to draw parallels between an analog market that fundamentally doesn't, the rules that are made for this analog kind of traditional fiat market don't necessarily apply on a one-to-one basis with traditional assets. So we're trying to extract the principles from which those rules are based and apply them to digital markets. So that's kind of challenge number one. The way we try to circumvent that is again, right, is we look at the principles, we try to apply those principles to kind of this new ecosystem and design a product that's in line with the spirit of the law, right? And that's what we've tried to do at Anchorage, with our bank charter, with the way that we're trying to interact with our transfer agent and ATS partners to really recreate these traditional markets in a more efficient way. In terms of our competitors that aren't necessarily dipping their toes as deeply into the space, I ultimately think it does come down to regulatory perimeter, right? When we're talking about securities, you're often going to have end clients that are holding the asset that are going to be subject to the Investment Advisors Act of 1940 and therefore the custody rule. And then once you're kind of subject to the custody rule, it very much shrinks the number of kind of safe control locations you can actually hold those assets. I mean, we just saw Brian Armstrong last week say, your assets might not necessarily be yours in a Coinbase bankruptcy. you know, that's not just a Coinbase problem. That's a problem for many of kind of our competitors, and it's something that, you know, we jumped in, got the federal charter to try to serve that role in the market as kind of that safe location for these digital asset securities.
And the other thing, I mean, for your securities, right, JD, that you guys issue, did I understand you correctly that the investor can either decide to go and trade out of its position on an ATS or come to you and redeem?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the, you know, kind of places that for, you know, kind of policy wonks and people who really kind of like go deep on regulation like you would understand. So what we've done really is we created the structure as a closed-end interval fund. And the closed-end interval fund really is offering, you know, kind of continuous subscriptions, but periodic redemptions. And what we're really trying to do here through this process now is to basically bridge the gap between kind of an open-end fund and a closed-end fund, and doing so by using the ATS as well. So we've really been trying to really thread the needle with regulation in terms of trying to offer kind of new assets and new different delivery mechanisms for what we believe is going to be the future of, you know, kind of fund and fund structures.
And are there others that are doing it, or are you guys the only game in town for that right now?
So we're the only, we're either super smart or super dumb. I don't know, but we're the only firm that's engaged in this process. Many others have talked about it. Nobody has been approved by the SEC and got effective with the exception of our fund. And our belief is that, you know, kind of once we complete the puzzle, once we've got the ability to trade on ATSs, that there's a, you know, kind of a huge opportunity out there to begin to drive forward, you know, the way that investment vehicles work. Because what you're doing here really is you're blending the way that you invest with the way that you would kind of transfer, right? We're solving for time and transferability. And just think about the beauty of being able to invest in like QQQ, and then at the end of dinner being able to send, you know, a share to your brother or your mother or to your friend. These are things that don't exist right now, and this is the way that the world is actually moving towards.
And kind of, if I could jump in, I mean, you asked Chris about the challenges for a custodian, and Chris said, you know, there are some things that plague the industry, but I would actually focus on the positives. We're farther along than we've ever been in this ecosystem, engaging with the regulators, right? This is a topic in Congress on Capitol Hill. You have, you know, candidates running for office on a digital assets platform. I think this is tremendously fantastic. And, you know, if you look at the fact that the SEC and FINRA are willing to approve ATSs to get involved in digital asset securities. In the case of Oasis Pro Markets, even settle in digital cash, right? It's, to me, it's fantastic. It's why I left TradFi, is to get into this industry where so much is happening so quickly. And we, you know, we all tend to, I shouldn't say we all, a lot of folks tend to focus on the negative. We're not making enough progress. We're making a ton of progress if you rewind 5 years and see where we were then.
So, I mean, just to try to illustrate, you know, kind of what we're talking about here. So we're talking about is taking, you know, kind of a digital asset, right? So insert, you know, whatever your name is here. Take USDC, take Bitcoin. You subscribe, you deposit that with Anchorage, right? Which gives you the trading ability and the power on the ATS, on Oasis Pro Markets, to buy a share of a fund that we created and receive a digital asset security in your wallet that you then can transfer to someone else, transfer back to the fund, or trade back on the ATS. And that's a really, really powerful combination, and something that, you know, most people don't recognize is in 10 years how this entire financial system is going to be working.
Yeah, it does put the power back in the hands of the investor, institutional or retail. And also, you know, the other thing to think about, this Coinbase thing is actually really important, because 2008 seems like such a long time ago now, right? But one of the main concerns that people had in 2008, institutional investors in particular, was that, you know, we've got all of these assets tied up in these banks. We are reliant on the banks to give it back to us, but these banks, you know, if Lehman went into bankruptcy, it took people years and years to get their assets back. I mean, there was a bankruptcy process in the US, there was a separate bankruptcy process in the UK. You know, being able to have them, you know, in control of your own assets, have true possession of them, that's a huge step as well. So, you know, just when we talk usually about, you know, blockchain-based securities and stuff, we usually don't hit on the bankruptcy aspects of it. But bankruptcy is, you know, should be a very key concern to investors, because you thought you had them and you can't get your hands on them, right? So that's important. What do you have plans to just roll out a lot of these products?
Yeah, I mean, so do we have plans to roll out a lot of these products? We're working on a bunch right now. There are a bunch of people in this room that we're working on, to create bespoke products. We are working together to create another product that'll ultimately list on the Oasis Pro ATS as well. And I think the future, for us, outside of, strategic partnerships with people that are kind of going to be moving the needle, is to start to, as you said before, educate the markets and start to try to really, evangelize what we've done to compete with some of the, larger players that are out there that ultimately are creating other instruments like this.
Right, and I was at a conference of the Securities Industry Financial Markets Association just earlier this week, and I was just blown away by how much people in TradFi were focused on blockchain and blockchain-based securities and settlement and all of this. So you guys are actually, you're kind of like your own ecosystem, which others, once they see that it works, are going to want to adopt. So kudos for that.
That's right. And, like I said, we recognize we were early. It took a lot of time, but it takes pioneers, much like the people on the stage, in order for us to start to evangelize how blockchain can affect day-to-day operation of markets. And the other thing, too, that I would mention is that the token that's generated from this fund, from investment, isn't simply just for it to be used for an investment, right? So when people subscribe to this fund, they're not simply saying, oh, I just want to have exposure to US Treasuries. What they're doing here, and the use cases we're building out right now, are how is it you could take that digital asset security that we call Arca and use that in a bunch of different use cases? How can you use that to solve for things like liquidity management, collateral management, and settlement purposes at large-scale financial institutions? And when we think about the way that finance is going to move, we also recognize that these digital asset securities that we're talking about here are going to be used for things like treasury management. And I'll give you an example, right? So let's say, and I just happen to be looking at your laptop and I see the Apple logo. So what if you're Apple? And what if you've got 50 different subsidiaries? And at the end of your day, you simply, as the treasurer, you've got to manage those different entities by moving funds back and forth. How are you doing that? I mean, you're calling your bank, you're sending wire instructions, you're beholden to doing it by 4 p.m. every single day. You've got problems over the weekend if you don't get it done on Friday afternoon. You've got boundary issues with things like Japan and Asia and Europe. All you need to do in that scenario would simply be taking a digital asset security and simply having a portfolio of different wallet addresses and simply mechanizing and moving those assets back and forth. And that's the vision that we have for this token specifically, and those are the kind of different projects that we're working to build out right now.
So that would also work for intraday repo then, right?
It would absolutely work for intraday repo.
Yeah.
Precisely.
That's really important, though. I mean, for the financial industry, the larger financial industry, being able to do intraday repo can become really, really key.
The only problem with this fund being used for intraday repo is that the actual prospectus stipulates that 80% of the fund would be treasuries. To do that, we need to increase that to 95%.
Okay. But that's you can do that. Yeah.
That's a disclosure, as you know.
Yeah.
And that's actually an interesting point, because when Gautam, on the topic of disclosure, right, when you were talking about bankruptcy and other things that people need to get comfortable with, last time I checked, the SEC was a disclosure-based regime, right? And if disclosure was adequate, investors could choose their own path. And I think that's where we need to get to with this, and them kind of thinking about, well, this is so different from what we've done previously. Let's give investors some credit. People will understand things, and of course it's beholden upon the issuers and other market participants to provide the right disclosure. But I think in that context, there really should be no holding us back on this.
That's great. And then in terms of the I don't know if you've gone through an SEC examination yet of your BD, right?
Yeah, we have.
And how is that process when you're doing the secondary market trading in digital securities?
Honestly, the process was very smooth. We were very impressed with the staff and their knowledge in this space. It's not to say it's instantaneous. It took time over the course of months. That has something to do with the lag between them asking us questions, us responding, and so on. But I felt like they were quite knowledgeable, and it went very smoothly. So that was actually very encouraging, right? That the regulators are moving kind of forward with us. Like I said earlier, sometimes not at the speed that people would like, but at the end of the day, certainly moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's really good news.
And so Frank doesn't feel alone. We too underwent an examination through the SEC. It's a long and exhaustive process, but it's really reaffirming that you've built the business correctly, and that you're building that you've implemented the rules that the SEC has set up and intended for you to implement. And that's a kind of a very, very, very kind of serious accomplishment. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, and I didn't even say no deficiencies. So we went through the whole exam, no deficiencies. That's the main thing.
No,
the fact that being examined is one thing. Anybody can be examined, but no deficiencies.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had a very similar experience with our exam. We thought that, I dealt extensively with the examiners, and they were very, very eager to hear about like how we operate, how we're different, and how we're still very safe and all of that. And we got, the same kind of letter back from them, so that was nice. But look, this is all very promising, and good luck to all of you building out, your products and your villages, and and connecting them all to each other. And I'm sure that with the right amount of education, as you put it, right, that there should be a lot of uptake from the investor community for the product. And when I say investor community, I'm not just talking about retail. I'm talking about the big players as well, and that's what you guys are all hoping for.
And the last point here, Gautam, I know you're trying to close it out, but that's why we did what we did, right? We did what we did, with this team, essentially, so that we could create a product that would appeal to institutional investors, that would drive attention to the markets that we're all creating. And hopefully, kind of once we receive that final piece of relief from the SEC, when we go to market, that we'll all see the fruits of our labor.
That's great. Well, thank you all for being here, being on the panel, and not forcing anybody to ask questions, but if you have a question, just put up your hand or come speak with us. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.